Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we are going to be tackling something pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Aspirin and cancer.
Mm.
I know you're thinking aspirin,
Mm.
like that little white pill that's been in my medicine cabinet forever.
Right?
But stick with us on this one, folks, because
Yeah.
this deep dive is going to be way more exciting than just a simple headache remedy.
It really is.
We're talking about aspirin's potential to fight cancer metastasis,
Oh, yeah.
which is like one of the biggest challenges in treating this disease.
Absolutely.
So metastasis is basically when cancer cells, they break away from that original tumor and then they spread to other parts of the body,
Right?
which is why it can be so difficult to treat.
Yeah. It's a huge problem.
So what if there was a way to kind of stop cancer in its tracks
Mm.
right when those cells are trying to make a run for it?
Well, that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Exactly. We're going to be looking at some really cutting-edge research straight from the pages of Nature.
Oh, yeah. One of the top scientific journals out there.
Oh, for sure. And what these scientists found is pretty mind-blowing.
It really is.
So imagine this. You get a detective working on a case, right? But instead of fingerprints and clues, they're looking at genes,
Yeah.
cells,
Yeah.
and even these individual molecules.
Mm.
That's exactly what these researchers did.
Yeah.
They were trying to understand why some people who take aspirin regularly seem to have a lower risk of their cancer spreading.
Right. And what they found is that aspirin seems to be boosting the immune system's ability to fight off those sneaky cancer cells that are trying to escape and spread to other parts of the body.
That's like aspirin is giving our immune system a supercharge. So how does it all work?
So our immune systems have these incredible warriors called T cells, right?
Yeah.
And they're constantly patrolling our bodies, searching for and destroying anything that doesn't belong, which includes cancer cells.
So are you saying aspirin is somehow making these T cells stronger?
Yeah, in a way, it turns out that there's something in our bodies that's putting the brakes on these T cells, preventing them from doing their job effectively.
Wait, so there's something that's sabotaging our own defenses. Who's the culprit here?
Well, the unlikely villain here is actually platelets. You know those tiny cells that help stop bleeding when you get a cut?
Yeah, those little guys.
Well, they produce a molecule called TXA2.
Okay.
Now, TXA2 is important for clotting,
Right.
but it also seems to be sending a signal to our T cells telling them to stand down,
Oh, wow.
which makes them less effective at fighting off those cancer cells.
So we've got these platelets,
Yeah.
which are supposed to be helpful, actually hindering our immune system. That's wild. But where does aspirin even fit into all of this?
That's the brilliant part. Aspirin inhibits an enzyme that's involved in producing TXA2.
Okay.
So by taking aspirin, you're essentially blocking that signal,
Gotcha.
allowing your T cells to do what they do best: attack those rogue cancer cells.
Okay, so aspirin's kind of cutting the brake lines on those T cells,
That's
letting
right.
them go full throttle against the cancer.
I love it.
But hold on, it can't be that simple, can it?
Oh,
There's got to be more to the story, right?
absolutely. And that's where it gets even more fascinating. The researchers discovered a specific protein inside T cells called ARHGAF1.
RHGF1.
Yeah, it's a mouthful. I know, but just think of it like a switch.
A switch, like an on-off switch.
Exactly. And TXA2, that molecule from the platelets, flips the switch to off,
Okay.
telling the T cells to stand down. But then aspirin comes in and flips the switch back on.
Interesting.
But here's the thing. Without ARHGF1, aspirin can't do its job.
So it's like this chain reaction. Platelets produce TXA2,
Right.
which flips that ARHGF1 switch off, telling the T cells to chill out.
Yep.
And then aspirin comes along, blocks the TXA2, and lets the T cells get back to work.
Exactly.
Wow.
And that's how the researchers knew they were onto something truly groundbreaking.
Welcome back to our deep dive into aspirin and its potential role in stopping cancer from spreading. Last time we talked about how aspirin seems to kind of unleash our immune systems
Yeah.
by blocking those stand-down signals coming from the platelets.
Uh-huh.
And we left off with this intriguing protein, ARHGEF1, that acts like a switch inside of our T cells.
Exactly.
But I'm still a little fuzzy on how the researchers actually proved all of this. How did they show that aspirin is really working through this whole TXA2 ARHGEF1 pathway?
Well, they did what any good detective would do. They gathered evidence. So first they wanted to confirm that TXA2 was the bad guy, the
Right.
one suppressing the immune system. So they gave mice a molecule that basically acts just like TXA2.
Okay.
And those mice developed a lot more cancer spread than the mice that didn't get the molecule.
So it was like giving those poor mice like a double dose of those stand-down signals,
exactly.
making it even harder for their immune systems to fight off the cancer.
Right. But then they gave another group of mice aspirin. And guess what? The number of cancer cells that spread plummeted.
Wow.
Especially in the mice with those healthy T cells. It was like the aspirin just cleared the way for those T cells to do their job.
That's amazing. But what about those mice without the ARHGEF1 switch? Did aspirin help them too?
That is the key piece of the puzzle.
Oh.
When they gave aspirin to mice that were missing the ARHGF1 protein in their T cells, it had no effect on the cancer spread. It was as if the aspirin couldn't do anything without that switch being present.
So that's how they knew they were onto something really huge?
Yeah.
Aspirin was working its magic by flipping that ARHGEF1 switch.
Yeah.
And without the switch, the magic was gone.
Yeah, it really was a brilliant experiment.
Yeah.
But remember how we talked about aspirin being able to inhibit both KOX1 and KOX2? Well, the researchers wanted to figure out which one is the real MVP in this whole process.
Right, because they had to make sure that they were targeting the right enzyme if they wanted to develop even more effective therapies.
Precisely. So they used these special inhibitors that could block each enzyme individually.
Wow.
And what they found was that only the COX1 inhibitor, the one that blocked the same enzyme as aspirin, had that same effect on reducing cancer spread.
So they zeroed in on COX1 as like the key player. But why was that so important?
Well, KOX1 is mainly found in platelets. You know, those tiny cells that are sending out the stand-down signals in the first place.
Ah, I see. So by blocking COX1, they were essentially cutting off the supply of TXA2 right at the source.
Exactly.
But how did they prove that the platelets were the real culprits here?
Well, they got really creative with their experiments. So imagine this.
Okay.
They put platelets and T cells together.
Okay.
But they separated them by this tiny little barrier like a screen door.
Uh-huh.
The cells couldn't touch each other directly,
Right.
but they could still communicate through the barrier.
So it was like they were eavesdropping on the conversation between the platelets and the T cells.
Exactly. And what they found was that even though the platelets couldn't physically touch the T cells, they could still send those stand-down signals through that little barrier.
Wow, that's so sneaky. So the platelets were definitely sending out those suppressive signals even from a distance, but that's not all right. Didn't they do something even more impressive to, like, seal the deal?
They did. They created mice that lacked COX1 specifically in their platelets.
Oh, wow.
It was like taking out the factory that produces TXA2 in those cells, and guess what?
What?
Those mice had way less cancer spread, just like the mice that were given aspirin.
Okay, so they basically recreated aspirin's effect by silencing the COX1 in the platelets directly. That's pretty convincing evidence.
It really is. All the pieces of the puzzle just fit together perfectly.
Yeah.
Aspirin, by inhibiting KOX1 in platelets, reduces TXA2 production, which in turn prevents that ARHGEF1 switch from turning off our T cells, allowing them to fight cancer more effectively.
This is such an amazing example of how scientists can, like, unravel these complex biological mysteries. But what's even more exciting is what this discovery actually means for the future.
That's what we'll explore in our final part.
Can't wait.
Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. You guys, we've been on quite a journey uncovering this surprising connection between aspirin, this common over-the-counter drug,
Right.
and its potential role in fighting cancer spread.
It's remarkable, isn't it?
It really is.
We've gone so deep into this intricate world of cells and molecules,
Yeah, we have.
discovering how aspirin, by inhibiting KOX1 in platelets, unleashes our immune system's T cells to actually combat metastasis.
It's like aspirin is a secret weapon just hiding in plain sight.
Right.
We've learned how platelets, those tiny cells that are responsible for blood clotting, can actually suppress our immune system's ability to fight cancer.
Right. And we've uncovered the crucial role of TXA2, that molecule that's produced by platelets, that sends those stand-down signals to our T cells.
But the real breakthrough is understanding how aspirin disrupts this whole process.
Yeah.
It's essentially like cutting the brake lines and allowing our T cells to go after those spreading cancer cells.
Absolutely.
And we can't forget about ARHGEF1. That critical switch inside the T cells that aspirin needs to flip in order to work its magic.
Right.
So we've gone from a simple observation that people who take aspirin seem to have a lower risk of their cancer spreading to, like, a detailed understanding of the molecular players involved and how they actually interact. It's like we've cracked a secret code.
It really is a testament to the power of scientific inquiry and the dedication of these researchers who are constantly seeking answers to these complex biological questions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But let's talk about, like, the bigger picture here. What does this discovery mean for the future of cancer treatment?
Yeah.
Are we all going to be popping aspirin now to prevent our cancer from spreading?
Well, it's not quite that simple. While aspirin offers this promising avenue, it's important to remember that it's not a magic bullet.
Right.
Long-term aspirin use can have side effects,
Yeah.
especially for some people.
Right, so it's not like a one-size-fits-all solution.
Yeah.
But does this research give us hope for, like, new and better treatments?
Absolutely. Now that we understand this pathway in such detail, we can start to develop more targeted therapies. Imagine drugs that precisely block TXA2's suppressive signals or directly activate ARHGEF1,
Yeah,
boosting our T cells' ability to fight cancer without the potential downsides of long-term aspirin use.
that would be incredible. It's like we've unlocked a secret door opening up a whole new world of possibilities for treating cancer.
Exactly. And there's another exciting possibility,
Oh.
combining aspirin with other immunotherapies.
Hmm.
These therapies are already revolutionizing cancer treatment.
Yeah, they are.
But imagine if we could supercharge them
Yeah.
by adding aspirin to the mix, further unleashing the power of our own immune system.
That sounds like a total game changer. But I know developing new drugs and therapies can take time.
Right.
Are we talking years? Decades? Like, when can we realistically expect to see these potential treatments become a reality for people?
It's hard to say for sure. But the fact that we now understand this pathway so well is a huge leap forward.
Yeah.
Researchers are already working on developing those targeted therapies,
Okay.
and clinical trials are likely on the horizon.
That's incredibly encouraging. It gives me hope that we're moving in the right direction towards more effective and personalized treatments for people with cancer.
And it just underscores the importance of continued research and exploration. There's still so much that we don't know,
Yeah.
but with each new discovery, we gain a deeper understanding of the complex processes that govern our bodies
Yeah.
and open up these new avenues for fighting diseases like cancer.
This deep dive has been an incredible journey, and I feel like we've only just scratched the surface.
Mm.
Who knew that a simple, everyday drug like aspirin could hold such fascinating secrets and potentially play such like a vital role in this fight against cancer?
It's a reminder that even the most familiar things can still surprise us, and that scientific discovery is this never-ending quest for knowledge and understanding.
So true. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it as insightful and thought-provoking as we did. Until next time, keep those brains curious and remember there's always something new to discover, even in the most unexpected places.